condition number 23/0031/AMC PPP, and that's for approval of matters specified in condition numbers 10, 16, 19, 21 and 22 of planning consent 10/0917/PPP as extended by 18/0561/PP at North Craig Farm, Glasgow Road, Kilmarnock. I'm going to hand over to Fiona to take that.
That's me again, members. So thank you very much, Chair. This site is part of the overall North Craigs residential land release with the extant live planning permission for residential development at the very north of Kilmarnock. Again, there's quite a significant planning history for this site, and members will refer that a layout was at Planning Committee earlier this year, and that starts at paragraph 7 of your papers. We have before us an application for an approval of matters specified in conditions of a planning permission in principle to discharge the stated conditions. These conditions relate back to the original planning permission in principle for the site, and these are detailed on paragraph 15 on page 153. Members can only consider the details within these 5 conditions as part of the decision-making process today. And for clarity, the conditions are condition number 10 for a construction traffic management plan, condition 16 for surface water runoff, condition 19 for existing culvert maintenance, condition 21 for written scheme of investigation for archaeological matters, and condition number 22, the programme of archaeological works in relation to condition 21. Consultees in turn have advised from ARA Traffic that the revised CTMP for condition 10 addresses the haulage road and lack of info on staff parking, site deliveries, wheel washing and the extended route to the site, and these all address ARA's initial comments that there's been some discussion back and forth with the developer. ARA Flooding have no objections and advise conditions 16 and 19 can be discharged following confirmation being provided by the applicant to address ARA flooding issues. SEPA has no objections and WOSA has no objections in terms of conditions 21 and 22. I have a couple of plans for you, members. There's really just a couple of plans. There's not a great amount on this one. It's just more to sort of remind you where the site is, etc. and what have you, because it's really just conditions that we're discharging. And if I have a look at this, this just shows you in Kilmarnock, you can see that we're very north of Kilmarnock. This is the Meiklewood interchange, if I've got my terminology right. And you can see, obviously, this is South Craigs in here, and we have the North Craigs residential development round about here. So you can see that we're very top of Kilmarnock. This is, just for some context, the roundabout where Western Road and Glasgow Road meet, and that's the sort of neighbourhood shopping centre just in there. So you can see that we're in between that and the M77. A bit more detail there, members. You can see the neighbourhood shopping centre there, South Craigs Holdings, the industrial estate in there, and obviously the motorway interchange up there. And just the site from there, members, just to show you the application site itself. And there, members, just showing you the details of the CTMP, about the construction traffic being taken in off the main road, etc., and limiting to that. And then obviously just the sort of general layout there. Again, I'll just show you the site layout in terms of the allocation under the development plan. Just obviously shows you it's residential in nature, and again it's residential there, and that supports the planning permission in principle. There's probably not an awful lot else to show you, members, but I'm happy just to sort of work back and forth. We do have 2 letters of representation objecting to the application. These are detailed in your report, but just in summary, that one of the objectors has asked if drainage is put in, will Wood Hill Burn be left as it is? If so, there's concerns that it would become stagnant and foul. In response, what we've advised is that condition 16, so that relates specifically to mitigation work to prevent surface water runoff from the development entering existing residential properties, and in general terms, the proposed application layout proposes 3 SUDS areas to manage and control surface water flow. As per the report, the aim of SUDS is to slow the flow of surface water, encouraging natural filtration, water storage and controlled water dispersal. Maintenance will be by the factor for the estate, responsible for ensuring that the SUDS basin is maintained and mown, inspecting grass swales for debris clearance. Significant sediment accumulation will be noted in initiation of measures to clear these and prevent sediment entering the grass channel and reseeding failed areas. Maintenance of an hawthorn hedge has been queried, and existing hedging in the site is to be maintained by the landscape factor. Issues with nettles spreading into neighbours' gardens. We can advise that a landscaping area is to be provided to benefit existing properties that adjoin the site and to provide a natural buffer between existing and the new. The drainage ditch is there to further benefit existing properties to prevent surface water entering properties, and the drainage ditch is to be regularly subject to factor controlled maintenance, including removal of nuisance plants. Sections 25 and 37(2) of the Town and Country Planning Scotland Act, as amended, requires applications determined in accordance with the development plan, and the development plan in this instance comprises MPF 4 and the East Ayrshire Local Development Plan of 2017. Policies of both have been considered in relation to the discharge of these conditions, and we're happy that these support approval. The details, apologies, I've lost my place. So we're happy to have the discharge of these conditions endorsed by members if you are in agreement, and there's no material considerations that would otherwise support refusal, and it's over to the chair. So thank you, and apologies for getting lost in my report there.
Thank you, Fiona. So what you members, are you happy to approve these discharge conditions? Yep. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to item 6 on the agenda. This is 3 applications we're going to take on block. This applications 23/0332/PP, 23/0215/PP, and 23/0261/PP at Ega Limited, Barony Road, Auchinleck in Marion. You're going to take us through the presentation. Oh, Barry, sorry.
Thanks, Chair. Good morning, members. You just bear with me. I will try and share my, well, I'm sharing my screen, but I'll just try and put it onto a slideshow if it works. Just taking its time. So this report considers 3 separate applications for planning permission, which are all intrinsically linked to the same development. One of the applications is for a major development and required to be determined by the Planning Committee. However, due to the interlinked nature of the other 2 applications, which are local developments, it was considered expedient for the Planning Committee to determine all of those applications. I'll summarise each of the applications before going on to some site photographs and a summary of the main considerations and recommendations. So the first application, which is shown on this slide, is referred to as application A in the report, and is for the erection of an extension to the Eiger chipboard factory to form a lamination plant and warehouse with ancillary log store and formation of a spoil heap and suds pond. This is a major development in the hierarchy of developments. So just to give you your bearings, Auchinleck is approximately 1.4 kilometres to the east. This is Barony Road running along the south of the site, and the former Barony Colliery just to the south of that road as well. So the site for development is located on the Barony Road, as I've just said, approximately 1.4 kilometres west of Auchinleck. The site was formerly used as a coal processing area associated with the Barony Colliery, which is on the south side of the road. This shows the existing layout with the Barony Road to the left-hand side here. So the slide's kind of tipped on its side compared to the one previous to that. The site for the lamination building is currently primarily used as timber storage, and further details of the site will be shown in slides still to come. So this is the factory here. You can see the buildings here and the yard just to the west of that, or to above it on the slide. Moving on, this is a proposed site plan which shows the footprint of the lamination plant and warehouse building adjoining to the west of the existing plant. So you can see the outline of it. Hopefully you can see my cursor, which is just outlining it. The log yard extension is in this area. There is already a log yard here just below it. And the proposed suds pond is just adjacent to an existing suds pond shown in blue. and the spoil heap which is associated with this application is shown in grey, and this is the excavated materials from the site which have been placed on this area. So the lamination plant extension would have a floor space of almost 22,000 square metres and would house a 3-line lamination processing area as well as a warehouse. The building would be lower than the existing building which it adjoins and use materials to match the existing building. So this slide shows the existing building is the one that's higher with the pitched roof, and the extension is the lower building to the right-hand side on the top elevation. Moving on, this plan shows the proposed spoil mound which is associated with this application. However, the location for it has since been amended, but we've not been provided with updated sections and profiles. Condition 12 on page 234 of the report requires the full details of the spoil mounds. As noted in the report, there is no clear justification for the storage of excavated materials from the site at this location. It would normally be necessary for such materials to be reused in some way within the site in line with the waste hierarchy. However, the disposal of such materials at this location without any particular need is considered contrary to the waste hierarchy and NPF 4 Policy 12 and LDP Policy WM1 as detailed within the report. This is the second application now. It falls within the local hierarchy and is referred to as application B within the report. This is an application which is solely for the storage of excavated subsoil from the site for the extension. And this is the location outlined in red. You can see it's just to the north of the Barony complex and the other application site that we've just looked at. This is the existing site plan with the site shown in pink. The land is agricultural and out with the Egger complex in the former coal processing area. And the site for the application is between the log store extension, which is here, and the spoil heap, which was proposed under application A, which is to the right-hand side of this one, the one in pink. Both spoil heaps together comprise of around 11,000 cubic metres of materials that are excavated from the larger site. Moving on, this shows sections through the spoil mound, although this is also slightly out of date since the area for the spoil heap was reduced in size. As with the first application, there is no clear justification for the storage of materials in this location. So you can see the sort of peaked formation of it, the sections that run through it. The third and final application, referred to as application C, is for a new temporary road for HGVs. This is proposed for a temporary period of 1 year to allow for the movement of HGVs within the site whilst construction is taking place. The site here, which is a red line, is to the west of the Barony complex, and it's based on an existing farm track which leads to Trees Hill Farm. This shows in a bit more detail the site. So the line along the left-hand side is the farm track, and the part which curves round to the bottom of the site is a new part of road which leads from an existing car park to the farm track. There wouldn't be any change to any access to the public road or any new access to the public road. So this is the proposed site plan. So this just shows the line of the access track or road in relation to the rest of the site. And this shows the proposed road in combination with the circulatory plan, which is proposed for the circulation of HGV vehicles within the site, shown in a kind of pink, the pink shaded roads. The existing road is intended for HGVs and is widened to a minimum of 3.5 metres with passing places. A circulatory route within the site is not part of the application site, however. You'll see the area in green here. This is a new road which has been constructed, and you'll also note the contours here. So although it's not detailed in any of the plans, there has been a significant excavation along this area to form this road. This is moving on to some images of the overall site now. This is an aerial image which is taken from Bing Maps. The Barony complex, an outline of the coal processing area you can see here. So the coal processing area was, you can see the sort of developed area, and that's what it was. And then to the left-hand side of that is greenfield land. And you can see the significance of woodland areas and trees and scrub and so on that are to the left-hand side or to the west of the site, and the farm track which runs along the western boundary. This is a drone view which was taken from Google Maps and shows a more detailed image of the site. This is taken from the Barony A-frame, which is to the south, again noting the developed area and the greenfield area to the west and to the north. So the site for the lamination plant is mostly within the developed area where there is timber storage at present, with some encroachment into the greenfield area to the west. All of those trees have been removed. It will show you later, there are some photos that will show you a bit better what trees are existing and which ones are retained. And the spoil heaps are to the north of the site, probably just beyond where the image is taken. So, as is noted within the report, there are very few details of the existing environmental characteristics of the site that were submitted with the application. This is because such surveys were not undertaken prior to the development commencing on the 1st of June this year. The applicant did, however, provide an indicative tree removal plan. The light green areas are areas of woodland which had been felled. The dark green areas are trees which are to be retained. However, it is noted that this dark green area within the central area of the site has in fact been felled, and it does appear that there has been more thinning along the western boundary bund of trees as well. But we're not completely clear on exactly what was there and what's been done. This slide shows the LDP allocation. So it is allocated as a business and industry site within the LDP, which is roughly based on the brownfield land associated with the coal processing area. Moving on to some photos which were taken. We didn't get any photos that were taken prior to works commencing, unfortunately, so we're looking at a construction site. So this was on the 10th of July. This is some of the excavated materials which were lying in piles within the site. And you can see that we're looking roughly south towards the Barony A-frame at this point. And looking towards A-frame again, with a pile of hardcore material ready to be laid. Looking west, you can see just beyond the piles of materials that the face of the excavations that have taken place within the site to level it. There was, I believe, a fairly steep slope up towards the western boundary, and this has been excavated out. And you can see the line of trees that remain at that point along this boundary. Looking southwest, more clearly seeing the excavations and the tree line. And as I say, it would appear that the excavations have resulted in the loss of some of these trees along that bund. It was quite wide according to the aerial images, and it now looks thinner than it used to be. And again, looking west. And looking northwest to the area where excavated materials are being stored. And this is the area where the excavation, the materials are being stored. This is the eastern part of the area, the storage area. And panning to the left or to the west of the site. And again, you can see the vehicles that were shifting the muck to this area. These are slides now that were taken 12th of September, so quite recently. You can see what's moved on fairly significantly. This is looking south, no, sorry, north, so from the car park area to the site, and the hardcore laid and foundations being piled, and you can see the excavations along the western boundary and the remaining trees. And again, panning to the left. Again, I think this is looking southwest from the factory towards the trees to the front of the site, I think. And again, looking southwest with the Barry A-frame visible there and the excavations along the western boundary. And this is looking roughly north. So this image shows, this is taken quite recently, and this shows the access track to Trees Hill Farm, which was already in existence, but now an access has been taken from this track into the car park. To the right-hand side, you can probably see beyond the Harris fencing there, the line of the new road which has been formed to access into this track. And this is going round to the right. You can see where it's been excavated and trees removed to form this road. And again, you can see where the excavations, this is from the car park within the Ayrshire factory, and you can see where the new road's been formed and the excavations have been undertaken. And this would have been previously wooded. And again, showing the steep faces of the excavations to form the road. And another view just showing the HGV, which is exiting the site onto the car park. So this report considers all three applications together as they're effectively all part of the same development. Assessment against the development plan, which comprises NPF4 and the LDP, notes that the lamination plant proposal in particular is considered contrary to NPF4 Policy 3 on biodiversity. For major developments, there are strict requirements on the need to demonstrate that development will conserve, restore and enhance biodiversity. This has not been done fully, and nor will it be possible to fully provide this, as there have been no pre-construction surveys undertaken to understand the biodiversity or habitat characteristics of the site, and it's therefore not possible to then form an assessment of the negative impacts of the development and thereon propose fully informed mitigation and enhancements. The lack of a baseline ecological surveying and assessment has also impacted on applicants' ability to show that the potential for protected species has been fully assessed and mitigated. However, as most of the work which may have impacted on protected species took place before the major application was submitted, the developer was bound by separate wildlife conservation legislation to ensure that no harm was caused to protected species. Additionally, applications A and B, so that's a major application and a spoil mound application, are considered contrary to NPF 4 Policy 12 and LDP Policy WM1, which require development to follow the waste hierarchy, with the disposal of waste as the least favoured option. The disposal of excavated materials in the land adjacent to the complex is not considered to be in line with this, and no reasonable justification has been submitted. The responses of SEPA should be noted in paragraphs 22 and 28 respectively, where they have no objection on planning grounds to spoil heaps, but do note that authorisation is required before works commence, and it is unclear if the proposals are consentable from their respect. As noted, works have commenced and spoil heaps are understood to be completed. The applicant's agent also received this response and was separately strongly advised by officers to contact SEPA to discuss this. It is understood that a meeting is to be held with SEPA on the 4th of October. Returning to the development plan considerations, it is also noted that the site is largely allocated for such development, as in business and industry development, and is therefore an appropriate location in general for it to be located. It is also distant from other sensitive uses, and therefore no unacceptable adverse amenity impacts are identified in line with LDP Policy Res 11. Visually, the development will largely be contained within the landscape with little impact on surrounding public use, and this is particularly taking account of the adjoining large-scale and very prominent factory building. The development will provide for an additional 35 jobs and will indirectly create several more. The economic benefits are therefore given significant weight, particularly given the suitable location for the development. This aligns with the LDP vision of East Ayrshire being a desirable place to live, work, invest and visit, including having a buoyant, sustainable economy with varied and plentiful employment opportunities. The decision of the applicant to commence the development, including, I should add, a major development, in advance of the applications being submitted and the decision being made was somewhat regrettable, notwithstanding the reasoning for this, which I understand is based on an internal bidding system within the Ayrshire business. Not only, however, was this unauthorised and a breach of planning control, it has resulted in an inability of the applicant to fulfil certain requirements of NPF4 and LDP, as in biodiversity and ecological requirements. However, the assessment of the development's accordance with the development plan is taken in the round, and in this case, the policies which support the development are considered to outweigh those which it is contrary to. It should also be noted that Condition 11 relating to tree planting and Condition 17 relating to biodiversity on the major application, so that's application A, should help to partly mitigate some of the loss of such features. As there are no material considerations which indicate otherwise, the recommendation is to approve all three applications subject to conditions which are listed on pages 232 and 200 to 236 of your report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Barry. I'm going to open up to members for comments or questions. Councillor Maitland.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not sure if I've got this right, if I understand the SEPA consultation in page 192 and page 193 in bold. Does that mean, forgive my ignorance here, but does that mean that SEPA could overrule anything that we decide here? Thank you.
The planning decision is completely separate, but there is potentially a need for other authorisation from SEPA relating to the controlled waste. So they'll not overturn the decision, but I suppose there is, in theory, the potential for them to actually refuse that authorisation. So, but that's a matter for them. It's completely separate to the planning process.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Just the bottom line is, they can't overturn a planning permission, but they could take a decision not to licence what is otherwise consented, and therefore it would then fall to the applicant to come back in with a new application to then accommodate the SEPA alternative if SEPA aren't prepared to accept the spoils on being stored on site. So that's a risk that has been assumed by the applicant in the order of things, but as we have in the back of the paper coming to committee, we've made them aware again, and it was the applicant's agent that confirmed to us last week, or beginning of this week, I can't remember, that there is arrangements in place for them to progress matters with SEPA, but it comes down to whether or not SEPA grant a licence to then fulfil the condition, the consent that would otherwise be granted, and if they don't get a licence, they would then need to find a different solution for the spoil off-site if that was SEPA's insistence, and then they need a waste transfer licence to take it somewhere else.
Any questions for Councillor Maven?
I'm just wondering how big this spoil site is and how visible it is from neighbouring farms or villages.
I'll just try and share my screen again with you. I don't have any photos which show all of it. However, I'll try and show you the site plan again, which I'll show the extent of it. And as I say, we don't have the full details of the height or the sections or profiles of it. All right, bear with me. Should have probably just kept this open.
I was just wondering is it topography? Is that the right word? It's more than a mile from Auchinleck, so I take it, can this be seen from Auchinleck?
No,
No.
it's behind the factory. So if you're going along Barony Road, you've got the factory to the front. The extension to it is also to the front, to the left-hand side of it. Then you've got the yard behind, and then the bund is the spoil heap is to the rear of that. So it's unlikely to be viewed from anywhere, to be honest. Apart there is a farm which is further to the north, which is owned by Ayrshire, but I don't even think you would see it from there. So it's not a huge, yeah, no.
Yeah, I think through you, Chair, just to confirm, it shouldn't have any visual impact in itself because of its location at the rear of the site. As Vary said, you can't actually see it from the road, never mind Auchinleck, and the nearest farm you could view it from is that Thornhill was referred to earlier for the access road, which Ayrshire themselves own and control. So there shouldn't be any visual impact from and to be fair, I understand, if we're being fair, I understand that was the model when the original factory was built, that originally when soil was excavated to build the original factory, it was the same approach, and there was a previous bund there, part of which I think getting moved now, that was so it's a repeating the process that was put in place when the original factory was constructed. From their perspective, I'm neither buying nor selling.
Can I just ask a question, Barry? See, condition 17 in biodiversity. I know you said we can't measure the loss of biodiversity due to the fact that work had already commenced. How much can we strengthen that as a planning committee to try and enforce that it's quite a substantial biodiversity gain out of this?
Condition, what was it you said? It was 17? Without knowing, I have an understanding of the site as it was, it's difficult to know because that should form the basis for proposing mitigation. And well, in the first instance, it should have been to try and avoid as much as possible and conserve what's there. So now we're looking at a site which obviously has been constructed, and we know there's been a loss of biodiversity. What we maybe be trying to seek from the applicant is more details on that and what has actually been lost, because at the moment we're still not completely clear. They do have land available to them to provide biodiversity mitigation and enhancements, albeit it will be a bit of a guess, to be honest, because we don't know how much they need to mitigate by and how much they need to enhance by. But we do know there is land available to them, which is out with, within the site and out with it as well. But really, we would be looking for the applicant to provide a lot more than what they've already done within the application.
Through you, Chair, I'll just bring to members' attention, there's a balance to be struck here. Because what was on the site, it wasn't a greenfield site before the development commenced. It was the operating Ayrshire factory. It was an industrial site. Therefore, while it's not helpful that the works have started, and it's not helpful that we don't have the ecological and biodiversity starting point, it's not unreasonable to assume that it wasn't exactly going to be a site that would be hoaching with ecology and protected species, etc., because it was an operating factory already. However, it still remains that the impact of starting the development earlier before the relevant surveys to form the baseline and give you that starting point can be done does create an issue because NPF4 isn't about mitigation, it isn't about like for like, it's actually about trying to get to betterment. So if you don't have the baseline, what does betterment look like? So there'll just need to be a bit of a judgment in the round. But the bottom line is, the short answer to your question, Chair, is the application will come back, and if it doesn't go far enough, recognising the issues that have been highlighted here, it'll be back at committee, and that's where the committee will have the opportunity, if it wishes, to push for more in terms of actual enhancements and betterments. But that's going to be more about a quantitative argument about how many trees, how many mitigation measures, because there isn't anything to debate in terms of the baseline as a starting point, because we don't have that. But I do think that the balancing factor is quite simply, it was still a factory before works commenced in June in the extension, and therefore I think it's reasonable to assume it wasn't at a high level of biodiversity as a starting point. But that's the parameters within which we need to work due to the way the circumstances have played out.
Thanks, David. I'm going to bring in Councillor Watts first, then Councillor McGee.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to move approval as in line of the report and following the conditions that laid down by officers.
Do you want to second that? Councillor Frail. Yeah. And Councillor McGee, do you want to come in?
Aye, just before we determine things, I thought didn't come we're at that stage, but on the biodiversity, again, I think for the photographs it looks that again, it was probably maybe there were some trees that they had planted as well. They look as if they were planted quite close together, fighting for light. So I was wondering, Ken, if you're looking for some betterment, we could ask for getting reasonable planting with proper species so as to enhance the area, given that we haven't got that base point to start with because they've tore everything down. So we don't ken if there were a badger set there or bats or whatever. So we can only go with the letter they've written in, which didn't be say an expert in their field. So I'm wondering if we could do something like that. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing. We don't really know. That could have been the biodiversity value could have been, not very high. So, and as has already been noted, the site is primarily brownfield, albeit there is a portion which is out with the brownfield site, and it probably will have a biodiversity value of sorts. Condition 17, really it's placing the onus back on the applicant to provide sufficient details, and obviously the agent is here today and will be hopefully noting what's been said. So we will be expecting basically a sort of a better understanding of the site and the biodiversity sort of characteristics. Opposite the site there is the Barony A-frame site, which is known for its biodiversity value. So there could be some enhancements to the site to try and add to that. So we would want the applicant to probably by engaging an ecologist or somebody who is an expert in that to be able to provide much better details than what already has. Obviously I'm not an ecologist, so I can't really advise on that, but we would want to see a lot more sort of investigation and sort of consideration of what the biodiversity mitigation and gain should look like based on an understanding of the site and the surroundings.
Thanks, Barry. Councillor Cowan.
Thank you, Chair. I really just want to put on record and add my comments to the disappointment about the situation we find ourselves in. Basically, we're shutting the stable door after the horse is bolted here, but I appreciate condition 11 and condition 17. Hopefully the agent will take real cognizance of both of them and what we're discussing here this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I've got a proposal and second for the application with the conditions. Is there anybody else otherwise minded? No. Just before we go there, I'd just like to highlight as the chair, I'd like to express my disappointment at the retrospective nature elements of this application. We'd hope that any future applications, due process is followed and any works would not commence before planning consent is granted. So, thank you. Okay, that's us. We'll just close the meeting up at that then. Thank you very much.